If you're preparing for Map the System and your research feels rich, complex, but honestly a little bit overwhelming, then you're exactly where you need to be. Because Map the System isn't just about understanding a problem deeply, it's also about conveying the complexity into something that's visual, meaningful, and easy to understand for the audience, but in a little amount of time. And so what separates strong teams from winning teams isn't exactly who did more research, but more about who makes a more meaningful impact to their audience. So in this video, I'll walk you through how to use visual storytelling in both your reports and your presentations. If someone were to stop you in the hallway and ask, "Could you tell me your system in 30 seconds? Could you? And that answer is going to be the foundation of your storytelling. Before you refine your maps and decide which ones go into your report, you gotta take a step back and ask yourself, what is the core insight that your entire project is actually wanting to tell? Because without this clarity, no amount of good design or visuals will make your storytelling effective. And this is where the 5 whys are incredibly powerful, because after you've developed your iceberg models and explored all the different components, it gives you a clear logical path from looking at symptom level surface all the way down to the root causes. And what this process does is it gives you a simple and coherent way to explain even under pressure. Your goal isn't to tell everything you found. Your goal is to change the way your audience sees the problem, and that can be achieved by telling one core story. Let's start with your submission, is where you show depth and rigor, but it still should look like a story, not a data dump. You could think of your submission following a story structure, where you begin by grounding your reader in what is happening, and then gradually uncover why it behaves the way that it does, and then finally, we're able to show them what this means and why it matters.
And your submissions, which include system maps and analysis, play important roles in your storytelling of the issue. System maps are a common framework that guide your questions and structure analysis. Each map can tell a different aspect of the system, and so it's really important to know what one does and choose the best one to tell your story. Strong system maps can make your core message quickly accessible, and so not just focus on your analysis, but also your system maps.
Thanks, Lynn. Now let's look at some common maps we see in the submissions. First is one that we've talked about this whole series, and I know you probably all know it already, but it is the iceberg model. And this iceberg model helps us see beyond symptoms to what's really driving the problem. An impact canvas, which helps us to map how our ideas actually create changes within that system. An actors map, which helps us understand who's involved and how power and relationships flow. A journey map, which steps into the lived experiences to uncover real pain points within that system, the ecosystem, or just a system map in general. And this is a broad overview that lays out all the major elements in a system and also how they interact at a high level. The stock and flow diagram, which tracks how resources accumulate, which refers to the stocks part of this title. And then we have how the system changes over time through inflows and outflows, which, yes, is referring to the flow. Causal loop diagrams, which reveal the hidden feedback loops that are shaping the system's behavior.
So here are some general best practices in using visuals in system maps and reports. First, let's talk about the system map submission. Every map should follow a consistent layout. We suggest you using this layout. The title, to state the key insight. The context, where you tell the reader what to look at and why it matters. And then you have space for your visual. And you should use consistent design elements for easy scanning. We actually use colors, shapes, and symbols to improve clarity. Use color to distinguish categories or relationships. And then you can use shape or icon to represent different types of the elements. You can also keep these choices consistent across our maps and visuals. There are common elements that you can actually keep consistent. Those are stakeholders, mental models, and outcomes. Other elements categories can vary by map. This is where including a clear legend will be beneficial. And briefly explain what the map shows and highlight key takeaways. Simplify for faster understanding. You could also use symbols and icons instead of a long text. Reduce visual clutter and design for quick comprehension.
You want the title of each diagram to be the insight. Your title shouldn't be something like causal loop diagram. It should be something more specific like short-term funding cycles reinforce long-term instability. That is storytelling. And it doesn't matter if it's looking pretty or not. The most important factor is that you have your audience notice something immediately. And if your audience can't notice anything in 3 seconds, then that means your maps are too complex. Now let's talk about how to effectively use visuals in your analysis reports. So while your full systems maps are submitted separately, it's also important to use the visuals in your report that should be more focused and zoomed in to particular parts of the system. And this is often extracted from those larger systems maps. And with the 3,000 word limit, strategic use of visuals can reduce unnecessary text, communicate complex ideas more efficiently, and also help you stay within the word count.
So there are common visuals and infographics that we often see used in analysis. For example, in explaining what the issue is, we can use infographics highlighting important statistics, institutions, people of the issue. You can also use timeline or trend chart to show the patterns over time. We also see some people include their iceberg model. And then in the problem landscape, the audience journey, or any artifacts or evidence of the stories related to your issue. Also in the problem landscape, we've seen students use zoomed in or focused feedback loops. Comparison table also used to clarify differences, trade-offs, perspectives, and even used in showing the gaps and leverage points in the later report.
Remember your core message distilled from the 5 whys that we talked about in the beginning of the video? Anchor your entire 10-minute presentation around this idea. This keeps you focused and prevents the common problem of trying to include everything. Okay, but with the core message, how do you actually build your stories? Use the classic 3-act story structure, which mentions the setup, confrontation, and resolution, which is the framework that is used a lot in the film industry.
Act 1. Set up. Make the audience feel the problems. A surprising statistic, a human story, a clear contradiction to ground them in the context and what is happening.
And Act 2 is confrontation, and the goal of this confrontation stage is to explain how the system works and builds towards the root causes. This is where you walk the audience through each 5 whys and build the climax until you reach the biggest consequences to see those who are affected. So how do we do this? We show selected key visuals, not the full systems maps. You also want to focus on 1 or 2 important loops or relationships, and you want to extract and simplify your larger maps. Most importantly, you want to narrate the causality. Instead of naming the diagram, walk through it. You could talk about it as such and saying, this leads to this, which then reinforces this. Make the system feel alive and dynamic, not static.
Act 3. Resolution. This is where you will point out the gaps and deliver a clear key takeaway to shift how the audience sees the problem. Don't say, so this is the feedback loop, so we need to fix it. Instead, say, for example, where funding becomes short-term, organizations shift priority, which create instability, which then justify more short-term funding. You want to tie your story up that can help you reinforce your core message and bring it back throughout. This is why the system stays stuck. Then you can also transition from your gaps to leverage points or potential solution by creating contracts from what is, which is the current system, to what could be possibility for change.
We want to have a powerful ending, so let's avoid weak endings like, it's complex. You're right, but instead, let's restate your insight. So something like, the issue isn't a lack of effort, it's the structure of incentives, and we want to show the implication. So we could say something such as, without changing this, solutions will keep failing, and we want to offer a shift. So this is where we mention the clear call to action. For example, the shift might be the issue isn't that organizations lack commitment, it's that short-term funding structures push them into short-term thinking. And so the call to action would then be, instead of asking how to fund more projects, we need to start asking how might we redesign funding cycles to support long-term stability. Storytelling comes after you've made sense of what happened. So remember, distill your message. Tell it like a story. Use visuals to guide understanding. Because in the end, success with Map the System comes down to this. Can you help your audience see the system for the first time?